You are an expression of the divine. If you weren't source intelligence, you would be dead. Okay? It's what animates you. It's the thing that makes you move around and talk and have awareness and all that stuff. That's source intelligence. You have your expression of it, but it's still source intelligence.
Karen, not only that, it's the largest aspect of us, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
We're like 99.99% energy, and the physical body is like the smallest part.
Exactly.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Energetically Efficient Show. I am so excited about my guest today, and I'm going to let her speak in just a couple of minutes, but I have a very fun intro that I want to share with you. I didn't prepare it on purpose because I truly want this to come through. Karen Chung, who is the owner of Spherical Luminosity. She and her husband, Chris Sprague, own Spherical Luminosity together, and I consider both of them to be mentors of mine. Karen has been a mentor of mine since I found her in approximately, it was pre-COVID. So it was 2019 or 2020. I don't remember which year. And she truly is one of the lightest, brightest beings that walks the earth at this time, in my personal opinion. And I think there are many people that would agree with me. She works on what is referred to as the frequency level. So this is something that you may have heard of, you may never have heard of. And the exciting thing about it is, and trust me, I didn't understand this until I started to learn from her, that truly the words we're saying don't really matter as much because there's a resonance that's being transmitted in what she's going to speak to us about today. I have prepared a few questions, but we may go down different rabbit holes. And I really am excited because I do a lot of work with her, from retreats to different online programs to meditation masterminds. And I'm just excited for you to hear from her. So Karen, with that intro, I just want to welcome you to the Energetically Efficient Show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Kristen. What a fabulous, fabulous introduction. And it's really such a delight to be here. I'm really excited. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for being here. So I am not going to spend time asking you questions, the basics about frequency work or anything. I want to go deep really quickly. You have hundreds of episodes of your podcast that I will direct people to. She has a podcast called Mastering Your World Through Frequencies that you can listen to for a lot of the basics. But I want to start with something that I find just fascinating, especially in terms of the work I do so much with the physical body. And I've heard this, you talk about this in many different programs I've learned from you on, but I don't fully understand it. So I would love to talk about how we render in our physical body. And what I mean by that is, you've told me in terms of this hologram, projector, pineal gland, energy body. I'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think in order to answer that question, I have to give a little bit of context to it for your listeners who are like, what did Kristen just say? I don't even understand what. I think I speak English and I understand all those words, I think individually, but strung together, I have no understanding what that means. Okay. So for those of you who don't know what the rendering is and don't know really anything about the work that I do, to me, everything is vibrating, right? So this is not a very new concept. I mean, the scientists have been talking about this for a really long time. And the rate of vibration is what determines the thing, so meaning if you take something really physical like water and it's vibrating high in terms of its molecular vibration, it's steam. And when that slows down, it becomes liquid water. And when that slows down even more, it becomes solid or density or ice. And if you take that same idea and you extrapolate that all the way out to consciousness or the oneness or the one or the field, this is like, what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about all the time, and Lynn McTaggart and Greg Braden and Dr. Bruce Lipton. There's a lot of science now about the field or the oneness, which connects all beings. And in fact, it's a consciousness that some people call the divine or source intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And it's that intelligence from which all things derive and to which all things return. So that vibrational level is extraordinarily high. We can't yet measure it with our physical tools. And when the oneness, just think about it, like you're this expanded forever oneness. At some point, you're going to get a little bored and you're going to want to see what life can be. So in order to see what life can be in all of its infinite numbers of expressions, there needs to be a drop in vibrational level, which at that point becomes frequency. And then, or the quantum field. A lot of you have heard of the words quantum level. It's very popular right now on social media, and most people don't know what it is, but there you go. It's the quantum field. And then when that slows down even more, it becomes energy. What we talk about is energy commonly nowadays. And then when that slows down even more, it becomes physical form or matter. So what Kristen's asking me is, well, okay, you have all these different layers of like consciousness all the way down to the physical. And I've heard you say, Karen, that we are not only just our physical bodies, we're also consciousness. There is an aspect of us that is infinite, that is an individuated aspect of the divine, or said differently, an individuated aspect of source intelligence. So then how the heck do we have our physical bodies if we also have consciousness? Like, how do those things like jive up together? Like, how are our bodies here? Basically is what she's asking.
Precisely. That was the best summary I've heard. Yes. Thank you.
All right. So here you are, and whether you're aware of it or not, you are consciousness. I think it's hard, I think, for people to understand that, but it's that thing that some people call intuition sometimes. You know, it's like where you feel like you have to sign up for something or, you know, make a call to someone when you haven't spoken to for a while, or, you know, turn left instead of turn right. That's like your higher self talking to you, right? And so it's not, I think a lot of people, when they think of their higher self, they think of like this disembodied, perfected thing that's out there mysteriously doing something, and then you might hear it. It's actually you. Okay. It is an aspect of you, just like your body is an aspect of you. So you have this aspect of you that is individuated consciousness, and it is individuated source intelligence. So I just want to back up before I even talk about the rendering and talk about how magnificent that is. You are an expression of the divine. If you weren't source intelligence, you would be dead. Okay. It's what animates you. It's the thing that makes you move around and talk and have awareness and all that stuff. That's source intelligence. You have your expression of it, but it's still source intelligence.
Karen, not only that, it's the largest aspect of us, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
like 99.99% energy, and the physical body is like the smallest part, yet we think this is who we are.
It's the smallest part. Yeah, exactly. And that's because we've forgotten, and this is part of the veil of forgetting that I talk about, which is like you, in order to have an embodied experience, one of the things that you had to agree to was actually to forget. And the thing that you had to forget, which is a huge forgetting that I don't think people really understand, but really you had to forget that you were intrinsically part of the one. You had to believe that you were separate and limited and physical, and that's all you were, like this little body running around, right? And this thing, this physicalness is like the end all be all, right? And your thoughts and your emotions, that's it. Like that's all of you. It isn't all of you. It's an aspect of you, but it's not all of you. So in any case, how do you then get your physical body? All right. Well, in order to have density or form, you might think to yourself, well, it's kind of a pain in the ass to, you know, sometimes be in a body. Because, you know, if you've been running around all day, and if you're like Kristen, who's had 4 hours of sleep because she has a full day and then has to do meetings and has to go to an event and has to do all this stuff, you know, you're not really thinking about yourself, you know, as anything other than like running around, you know. Right. But the thing is, there is an aspect to you that's greater. And how do you have form even? So in order to create form, and even though, like I said, you think that your form is a pain in the ass, as Kristen said, you know, 99.999999% of everything is what the scientists call nothing. But it's not nothing. It's just not form yet. And you get to experience the 0.000 equivalent 1% of something, which is form. So how do you create form then? And why is it so amazing when it really can feel kind of horrible sometimes? Okay. So density or form is something that is very difficult actually to experience because, like I said, it's such a rare thing to have in all the universes and the multiverses. So what you have to do basically is, as a consciousness, so that's not embodied, you have to have a structure that can interface with basically its environment in order to create form. So essentially what happens is that you have yourself as consciousness, and it is projecting through a very specific prism in order to basically have form. Okay. And I know it's going to sound a little weird. I'm going really far out into left field for some of you. So like hang in there with me. But when you come through the veil of forgetting, you're in the illusion of separateness, right? So the thing that makes you feel like you're having a common experience, like Kristen and I are talking to each other right now. It's not like I'm just like sitting in my little silo, never interacting with anybody or anything. I mean, obviously we're all interacting, right? So how do you have that experience of commonness when you have the illusion of separateness? Well, you need to have something that creates that experience. Does that make sense? Like you need a structure in terms of how do we all interface within this illusion.
Yep.
Okay. So you need to have two things that also happen when you fall through the veil of forgetting. And one is the experience of linear time. Okay. And now I know a lot of people are like, well, what other kind of time is there if there's linear time? Well, there's another kind of time called the eternal now, which is what everything is happening all at once. You know, there's that film that came out, I don't know, a couple of years ago called Everything Happening All at Once. Well, that's what happens actually at the level of the eternal now, which is a vibrational rate. That's why if you ever go see a medium or a psychic and you're talking to some disembodied being, assuming they're of a higher resonance, then you'll ask a question. They'll be like, oh, you'll find the love of your life or whatever it is. And you'll say, well, when? And they'll say now, often. And the now for them is the correct answer because they don't understand linear time. It's now. Everything's happening right now. There is no other form of time.
Karen,
so
it's like you've heard that I've gone to mediums and asked, like, when is my husband arriving, Karen?
Yeah. And then we walk away feeling really excited because they said now.
Correct. Yes. And they said now last time, and they said now the time before that.
The time before.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's already there because he is in the eternal now. He already exists in your field. But then there's the physicalness that's you. So, okay. So in order to have the rendering, which is what Kristen's talking about, and this experience of commonness, the illusion of separateness, when we are in form, something has to happen. Like, okay, how do you create this very complex set of parameters of the illusion that we call our reality?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, your consciousness needs to project through a prism of linear time and space, basically, in order to have an experience of commonality. Like we occupy the same, like my husband, Chris, is here in the room with me. Like we have an agreement, like, okay, this is what the space is that we're walking into. We have an agreement that this is zero, meaning like, and like, when does time start? Right. So we all agree that time starts at zero. And so the zero is a funny thing because it's kind of like those heist movies, when they're going to break into a bank or it's like Mission Impossible or like, some kind of spy movie. They're all like synchronizing their watches to zero because if anybody's off, it's going to screw the whole heist, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it's the same way with your reality. If you're off in time, you're not having the same common experience as everyone else. That's why the zero of time is so important. Okay. So actually telling you all this to explain a very complex.
Yes. No, I so appreciate this backdrop. And can I ask one question about that, Karen? Because you mentioned what I can never remember is, are we right now in time space or space time? Because we're switching into the other one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're in an experience of space time, which means that in your experience and what you believe and in what you understand is that you have space and then time. So meaning that in order to get to the door, right, which is about, I don't know, like 8 feet away from me, I have to like pick my body up out of this chair, walk on over to the door, and that's going to take me a certain amount of time. Okay. That's space time.
Right.
When you move into a higher dimensional order of resonance or a higher resonance, you experience time space, which means you can be anywhere or everywhere at any moment in time because you're using your consciousness to project that. You're not bound by your physicalness in the same way. So, I mean, you can kind of do it in your imagination. So if I tell you to close your eyes and imagine that you're, I don't know, in your favorite place on the earth that isn't where you're sitting, you can imagine yourself there immediately. You just physically can't move there yet because the way that the construct of this resonance is that you have to physically move your body. But when you get up in resonance, you don't need to do that in the same way because your experience will shift in terms of your physical experience will shift and your experience of what happens will shift when you rise up in resonance, that it flips to time space. Okay. You just shift your resonance and then you're somewhere else. I know that's hard for someone to understand, but that's how it works.
Yeah. It's hard for our brains to wrap our heads around that.
Understand
because we're so mired in time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we understand the way our reality works right now, which is like, this is what I do. I mean, isn't this normal? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. It's normal in this level of resonance and this consciousness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the rendering, so in terms of the projector that we have and the hologram, I've heard you talk about that. How does that work?
Yeah. So like Kristen said, like we all think that we're very physical because obviously if you pinch yourself, it hurts, right? You're like, ow. Right? Yep. Like if you smash into something, you're like, well, crap, you know what I mean? Or whatever, right? I mean, right? And then we always will struggle with our bodies. Like some of us feel too heavy and some of us feel too thin and some of, like we struggle with the physical.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing is that your consciousness, in order to have a physical experience, is projecting you like literally through a prism. It's like, so you as consciousness is like light. Okay. And I know it sounds a little woo because you're like, oh, okay, it's all light. Yeah, it's light. I mean, that's what it is. And so it's projecting through a prism of time and space, right? And then as it projects through that, there is something formed called your spirit body, which is a sphere that is at arm's length all around you. Okay, that's like this. That's of light. And it is meant to do something very specific. It's meant to project into the center of it density or form. So meaning the experience of density or form, right? Which is your body. So your body sits right in the very center of it, all right? So your consciousness is the thing that runs the show, all right? So just for you to know, this is the consciousness. You get to have an embodied experience because of your consciousness. It has to create a structure in which you can interface with the world and others within the illusion of separateness and have a coordinated experience, which is why it projects through the lens of space-time. You have a spirit body, which then projects inwards and has a physical body or a hologram of you, your physicalness, which is sentient. Obviously, it has sensation. Yeah. And the thing is, your spirit body is of light, unsurprisingly, and it has all these light codes all around it. Okay. And some of them are active and some of them are not. Some of them are distorted. Some of them are not. Anyway, so this spirit body then projects like a hologram in its very center, you and your physicalness. And then your brain is like the projector of your reality. So that's why when people have brain damage, they don't perceive the same way that others of us do, right? They experience very different things. So if you damage the projector, your experience of your reality will shift. I mean, there's all these different studies of all these different things of like where it happens when your brain like, you know, degrades in this way and that way and all that sort of stuff. Well, the projector breaks down. Well, then your experience of your reality will shift, right? And so, or for example, if certain parts of your brain are active, like there's this one guy who's a very famous rock climber and the part of his brain that should like activate with fear does not have a fear response. So when he's climbing like free climbing up the side of El Capitan, he doesn't have fear. Like most of us will be like sweating so much because we're terrified that we probably wouldn't make it more than 3 feet off the ground. And then we would slip down from all the sweat in our hands. Well, he doesn't have the thing in his brain that projects, that signals fear. He does not have it.
My hands are like sweating listening to this story.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but do you understand? Like his worldview, his reality, what he experiences is completely different from what you and I experience because the projector is wired differently. Yours or mine. It's
so interesting, Karen. I've never thought of it this way. My mother actually had a younger sister, who has since passed away. She had actually lived into her 50s, which was remarkable, but she was born with brain damage. She was born, so she was legally blind. This was just her rendering in this particular incarnation of her life. Yeah. But her reality was obviously very different. She had to be 24/7 cared for. And I never really thought about it in terms of the projection and how she rendered, but that's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. So it will change. And so the thing that is important about all that is that I think the takeaway from that is of all this stuff, and some of you are like, oh my God, what is she talking about? The reason you care about all this is because your rendering is not as solid as you think. So meaning that like we have a very set idea of how we should age, how we get sick, how we die. And it's very set on a very certain set, like a set of parameters that we have agreed to. But as consciousness rises, we will change how we age. Like, look, there are stories in the Bible and other like holy books of beings that lived for like 300, 400, 700 years. It's written in the books. And it's like, well, how the heck were those guys living for that long, right? And this is at a time when most people were dead by like 40, like 40 years old. So how is it that this other being is like living for hundreds of years? Well, it's because they had such mastery over their resonance and how their rendering rendered that they didn't have to age in that way. See? So your body is a reflection of your resonance, what you're able to do in terms of like how you perceive your own body, how you perceive the rendering. It's not as solid as we think. And the fascinating thing also is that liberates us to some degree or a large degree in terms of all the stories that we're told about what your body is supposed to do and how it's supposed to age. And the amazing thing is, like, not everything is, I don't know why people think this, that like everything on spirit level is like poof, magic, and then it's just done. Like, I'm sick and now I'm healed. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Is that thing possible at a certain level of resonance? Yes, absolutely. And what will also happen is as we rise collectively as a consciousness, things to help your physical body become more available to you. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these studies now about different like light therapies. There's like peptides coming about right? As you know very well, Kristen. This is sort of like the medicine of the future. I mean, this is very different kind of medicine other than like, I don't know, whatever the heck we've been doing to ourselves so far, in terms of putting like different chemical compounds into our bodies, not really being sure of the side effects and like pretending that it helps or whatnot, and we just get sicker as a population or, not being aware of the food that we're eating and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of interesting what happens when consciousness starts to rise, that what we start to have available to us and what can change in terms of our physicalness starts to shift, right? So it's not like only like the instant miracle cure, which I'm not saying is impossible. It becomes more possible as your resonance rises, but it takes quite a level of jump and a level of mastery in order to be able to do that. And what also happens is things like these new kinds of technologies, new forms of ways of healing, repairing, all this sort of stuff. And not only that, but thriving start to become available to us. So that shifts completely.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. So I have a related question on this just because it came to me as I was listening to you, which is, I think you might laugh, but I think one of the first things as people awaken or become, and I don't know if this is a social media thing or what, but people talk about like, the evildoers and the things and the calcification of the pineal gland. Have you heard about that? And I know that we've worked on that in different programs, and that's actually a real thing. People talk about this is why you shouldn't have fluoride in your toothpaste or in your water because can you speak to that calcification of the pineal gland and how, if at all, that interferes with the rendering or that affects our resonance?
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, if you think of your brain as the projector, right? Your pineal gland is like the lens, right? And so there are certain things, and it depends how far down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole you want to go, really. But there are certain compounds that cause like a skin, right? Like literally like a skin to form around the pineal gland. And, like fluoride is one of those things. And it's funny because, when I was growing up, it was considered to be normal and helpful for you to have fluoride. So every morning we took this little green fluoride tablet, which I kind of liked because it was sugary and tasted a little bit like lime. So I thought it was candy. So I thought, well, fine, I'll just eat that. So we had a vitamin C tablet and like a little green fluoride tablet because my mother was told, this is the 70s, my mother was told that if you want your children not to have cavities and to have strong teeth, you need to have fluoride. So anyway, we were popping that sucker. But the thing is, fluoride very much causes a skin to form like physically around your pineal gland. And the problem with that is, just imagine you have a cap on the projector that's you. Okay, so here you are, and you're trying to have more intuition. You're trying to have more knowingness. You're trying to access a deeper connection with the divine, a more sense of peace or anything like this. But you can't because you've got this like skin around your pineal, around the projector. That's you. So it's harder for you to not only feel those things, but also in terms of how you manifest it's harder then, because instead of manifesting from a higher resonance, you have to use your will, because the way you project your reality through that skin, I don't know why it does this, but it forces you more into your head. So it's like, okay, I don't have anything else to leverage, so I'm going to use my will. And so that is, the pineal gland really is something that's important, because a lot of traditions will talk about the pineal gland as if it's just like receiving, but it's also what you project through. Like, it's actually more about projection than receiving. Like, a lot of people talk about you need to open your third eye in your pineal gland in order to have a connection with your intuition. I'm like, well, you really need to actually access the infinite portal in your heart space, and then you can access all of that, because really it's about what you transmit is coming out through your pineal gland. Actually. Okay. So, but that's important. Why? Because what you emit is your reality. Right? It's the resonance that your reality reflects back to you. So if some of you are like, wait a minute, what did you just say? Yeah. So what you emit, okay, is through your pineal gland, okay, and the emanation that's you as you rise in your resonance. It becomes not just your pineal gland, it becomes all of you, your heart space, etc. But at the beginning, it's more like what's coming through your pineal gland. And if it's very distorted or there's a lot of like crud around you, then the emanation of you or what you experience as your reality is, well, whatever you see, it's distortion, meaning more worry, more fear, more scarcity, more struggle, more like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like basically what I hear you saying, Karen, is that it's almost like it truly is a projector and it dictates what movie you're watching. Are you watching a scary horror movie, or are you watching a rom-com or an action or something that's a higher vibrational film because of, oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And it's kind of like, just to take your movie analogy a little step further. Yeah. Okay. So here you are. Now you may not think of yourself like this, but this is what you are. You are source intelligence in form. Okay, so here you are. So just think of like a cinema again, right? So old school camera, right? Old school. There's this white light projecting through the camera, through a celluloid film, right? So there's a clear white light that is projecting. That's source intelligence. That's you as consciousness. The celluloid film that you see is like all of your distortions. So what you're seeing, the film, that is your life, is actually the distortion. So the light goes through your distortion, and then what is projected, the movie, is your life. But the life that you see or experience or feel is through the celluloid film of your distortion. Change the film, like the celluloid film, and the movie that you experience will be different.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good analogy. I'm sure I've heard you say that before, but it landed in a different way right now. So thank you. I hope that really serves people. I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
And I want to get into the way in which you help people kind of upgrade their celluloid film, for lack of a better term. Yeah. But I want to ask just a couple more questions about topics that are of interest in terms of where we're at in consciousness at this time. And one of them is there's no shortage of information about aliens and UFOs and are there other beings and right? I mean, people spend lots of hours trying to figure all this stuff out. So I'd love to just talk in terms of like the higher dimensional beings, because of course I do lots of different programs with you. Many show up to support us, which is amazing. Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to say how many are there because I'm sure there's an infinite number, but what sort of higher dimensional beings truly are available to us at this level of consciousness? And are they something we should fear or be excited about or appreciate? Or if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah. It's funny how people are so, like humans are very afraid. Like, I don't know if you noticed this. Like we're kind of terrified most of the time. And that's because of the illusion of separateness, because you believe that you're separate from source intelligence. Like you believe the divine is out there somewhere, right? Like we all do. I mean, not just you. I mean, I did too for a long time. I was just chasing the divine all the time. I really wanted to understand my connection to it. And then at some point in my own resonance rising, I realized, wait a minute. It's not just a connection. It is part of me, right? I'm not saying I am God. I did not say that. I just said I am an individuated aspect of source intelligence, which is, divine. So in any case, I hate to break it to all you disbelievers, but there are many multiverses. It's infinite. Like in the creative force of the creator being of source intelligence, it's infinite numbers of multiverses, star systems, planets, etc., infinite levels of dimensional orders. So I hate to tell you this, but we are not the only ones.
We are not alone. Shocking.
We're not alone. Yeah. And we're definitely not the apex of evolution. I just want to say that too. And I don't mean that in like a really, horrible way, but if you look at what we're doing to ourselves, I don't think that's like a very far stretch.
Yes. Agreed. Well put. Well put.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And we put ourselves into quite a bind here, but anyway, so.
Well, and what we do to the earth, and not only what we do to each other, but the earth, the list goes on. Yeah, right. The list goes
to ourselves.
It's to
ourselves,
of course,
even.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Each other. Yeah. It's kind of horrible. So anyway, so framing that question is like, yes, there are infinite numbers of other kinds of beings. Now, what distinguishes a being that will help you from a being that won't help you? So I just want to say this because there are dark beings that exist. And most of the stuff on social media and on YouTube and stuff like that is about the dark ones. It's really interesting. Everyone's like, oh my God, they're going to come and I think it's because of Hollywood. They're going to come like blow up our earth and whatnot. Okay. So anyway, so there are absolutely darker beings that are about power and would prefer that you remain in fear and in disempowerment and despair because they feed on it. And they get more powerful the more fearful you are. But the thing is, if you don't give them your power and you don't give them your fear, there's nothing they can do about it. They have to either trick you into being afraid or convince you somehow, or you have to give your power away to them because you believe them. Okay. Or whatever internet rabbit hole you're going down.
Sure.
So I say that because I think people don't really understand how powerful they truly are. So why do they care? Like, why do they want you to do that anyway? I mean, like, what's in it for them? Well, the reason is because you are a really powerful creator being. That's what happens when you're source intelligence in form. Source intelligence, the creator of all things everywhere. Okay. That's a very creative force. Just want to say. So you, as an aspect of that creator beingness, of that source intelligence, is very powerful. You are powerful. You may not feel that way. You might feel like you're just reactive to life, but you are a powerful being. You create your reality. I know that sounds like, well, why the hell would I be creating this? Well, the reason you're doing that is because of the distortion patterns that are running through your field, which we can talk about in a little bit. And so because you have all these distortions running, you think that you're this incredibly clear, beautiful signal of what it is that you wish to emanate out into the universe and experience. But really, there's this huge field of static around you going like, right? And so here you are projecting this intention through this field of static, and the universe hears the static. They're like, it's like, you want what? Right? And then you get back this thing. You're like, I don't want that at all. But the universe and the divine pure source, whatever you want to call it, source intelligence loves you so much. It gives you exactly what it is that you're asking for. You just don't realize that you're asking through a field of static, right?
Yeah.
So the static is your distortion, right? Mm-hmm. So now, the reason that I say all this is because your question was, what's the difference between all the different beings? So knowing that you are, or at least to some degree, having an understanding that you are this very powerful creator being. And at different levels of resonance, especially when you get higher and higher, you start to realize that, I mean, this sounds crazy to some people, but the awakening process goes from like it's funny, to the I am statement, right? Where it goes like, I am, which is like, I am, then I am, meaning I am everything. And then simply am, like I just am everything, everything is me. That is the awakened process in sort of a nutshell. And so because at different levels of resonance, you can create everything, and you are creating everything in your reality. Don't you think it would be very helpful if you could harness a lot of creator beings' fear? Because that's what they would create more of, just more fear, more despair, more disempowerment, more suffering. And then if you're a being that feeds on that, that makes them more powerful. That's why they would do it. Okay. So just be mindful of that, because your fear matters. I'm not saying you should never be afraid. Of course, you're a human. Of course, you're going to experience fear. I mean, if you're about to be like hit by something, of course, you're going to experience fear. Right. But the thing is just to be mindful of, media and different things that we're seeing all the time that we're bombarded with, and just be mindful of your fear. And if you don't feel good after watching that thing, don't watch that thing anymore.
Well, yeah, so, especially because if we're all watching that thing and everyone's getting whipped up in fear, we're creating more of the thing that we're all watching together, because we truly direct where we direct our energy is with the reality we're all creating together.
Exactly. And then we create a reality that is more fear filled and more despair filled and more all of that stuff, right? So it's important to be aware of how you're using your focus. So anyway, these lower level, heavier beings that are not from the earth, there are a few races of them that are trying to harness that, okay, for their own purposes. Okay, so I know this sounds very rabbit holey, but it is.
And just to be clear, Karen, when you say races, you're talking about different than human. You're talking about things like reptilian. You're talking about, that's what you mean by races. Okay.
Yeah, like the Greys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's actually really two primary ones, but anyway.
Okay.
So, and just so you know, a lower level, heavier race that's dominant will never ask for your permission. They'll always try to push into your space, so it'll feel yucky to you. They'll seduce you with fear, like what if and oh my God and all that kind of thing. Or like when you start to feel a contraction in your heart, that will be fear, or a contraction in your gut. That's also a fear response. So anyway, those beings are doing that. Now, what I will say is there are so many more other kinds of beings, especially of a higher resonance. So many more, like huge numbers of beings more that are of a higher in resonance that wish humans to rise and to really remember who we truly are as source intelligence and form. They have, okay, so let me just explain this to you. they have no need for your resonance because you vibrate lower than them. Okay. And I don't mean that like you suck, and I don't mean that pejoratively. It doesn't really matter. You're in a human body. Okay. So I'm not saying that whether you're a good person or a bad person. I'm just talking about the rate of your vibration. So these are beings that vibrate at a rate so high that you can't really perceive. They don't have form. You know what I mean? In the same way we have physical form. They may appear as form, but they're not necessarily embodied. And some of them, when you get to a certain level of resonance, don't even have an appearance of form. They're just light. So those beings, like I said, have no need for your resonance at all. Like they don't need you to have anything, any kind of experience or anything at all because their resonance is so high. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not particularly like a bonus for them in the sense of like they can't get anything from you that they would need. They don't need it.
Yeah, they're really here. If they show up, they're here to help us, to help consciousness rise, not to take.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So they will never come into your space, meaning they won't push in. They have no need to make you afraid. In fact, the opposite. You will feel more expansive. If you are privileged enough to be aware of them, they will never do anything against your free will. And often you have to, well, not often, always, you will have to ask for their help, for their whatever engagement you want from them. Okay. And so the thing is about these higher dimensional order beings is they're here. And why do they care about us? I forgot to mention that. So the thing about them is that the reason they care is because, well, first of all, they're of higher resonance. So they're very aware that everything is connected. So meaning that how we do as race, as humanity, once we remember who we are as source intelligence and form, as we come more and more into our heart-centeredness, and I don't mean that in like a super kumbaya, like way. I mean, literally into the resonance of your heart and able to access the portal within your heart that connects you to the quantum field, that kind of intelligence. Well, then what happens is our resonance jumps, okay, individually and collectively, depending on who you are and what you choose. And as a result, it ripples out into the oneness. So everything is connected, right? So when our resonance jumps, a number of things happen. First of all, it ripples out into the oneness, all rise. The other thing that happens is that there are certain beings at certain levels that still have not exactly distortion, but like a little hook still into some form of heaviness. And when we jump in our resonance, they get to release that and they jump. Makes sense?
Yes.
So we're all connected to each other. It's like they have like a toenail in it. Yeah. And so when we rise, it's like the toenail releases and then all of a sudden they jump, right? So the thing is that I know it seems hard to believe, but there really truly are so far many more beings that are interested in the rise for all than power for self. And so, yeah. Anyway, those are the higher dimensional order beings. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So you mentioned something that I want to have you speak to, if you could, because I'm thinking of my audience in particular that is very much engaged with the mind. And you talked about the heart space a lot and the difference. So I think I've obviously been on this journey with you for a while, trying to move from here to here more. Yeah. So could you speak a little bit to why that's so important, how that's more available to us right now, and how living here truly is not the way? Really?
Yeah. Well, I used to be very much in my head too. I still can be. I'm not suggesting I'm like, so elevated. I think you're still human. And so the thing is, here, I'll explain me like before. Sure. So before, I was the type of person who would always be chasing the next thing, right? So I was very successful. Chris and I had our own real estate business in San Francisco, and we helped people buy and sell homes, and we were very successful. So we had our own team. We were like really in the top producers of the city. We loved our clients. They all came by referral, but I had a lot of scarcity patterns running. And so therefore, my experience was to drive my team really hard and to drive me harder. So I was like, I just don't know where the next, because we never forced our clients to do anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's on your time. So, if you're going to take however long you're going to take, it's going to take that long. And I don't know when you're going to succeed or do something or whatnot. And the San Francisco market at the time was such that, you have like 20 offers on a single house, right? So anyway, it was really, really competitive to get homes in San Francisco at the time. So in any case, all that said, I was very in my head and very in a lot of scarcity patterns. So I was always chasing time. I could never do enough. I was always afraid that my my best was not good enough. So I was always hyper responsive to everybody. And it didn't matter what I did. I was always afraid that I wasn't, you know what I mean? They'd like find a fault in whatever it was I was doing. I mean, they all loved us. I mean, I don't know why I thought this. And it had nothing to do with what actually existed in terms of their experience or even the external reality or even the amount of money in my bank account. It had nothing to do with any of that. I just felt like for no reason, actually, really, that I was aware of at that time, as to why I felt this way. And I always felt, and Chris would always like, babe, like, I think we have quite a lot, actually.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
I think we can take the weekend off this weekend for
exactly.
once.
I'd be like, no. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And he and I would not actually take the weekend off. Right. And so anyway, I was just like burning myself into the ground, and I was driving my team and my husband crazy. So anyway, what happens is that your mind is that part of you which expresses your distortion. So your thoughts and your emotions are the embodied expression of distortion. Now, what the hell's a distortion? You're like, what is that? Why? She's talked about like static. So your distortion is static that's around you. It's the thing that you run up against all the time, that you keep having a lot of pain around, that you keep getting stuck. So for me, in my example, that's my scarcity patterns, right? So my non-worthiness patterns, the I have to overachieve patterns, like all that crap, right? Like all the stuff. And it comes from, you know, and to me, it's kind of like, you know how we talked about the spirit body before, Kristen, you know, that sphere of light? Well, your distortion patterns are like layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of duct tape around that sphere. So that sphere, as a result, then vibrates much slower. It's heavier, because of the distortion patterns. And then you, as that sphere, only see the distortion. You actually don't see the pure source energy all around you, or the source intelligence all around you, that massive field of limitless potential and brilliance around you. All you see is a distortion. So let me give you an example, right? So imagine that you and your best friend are sitting on a beach next to each other, and it's glorious, and it's a beautiful, brilliant blue, and the sun's setting, and it's like just like amazing, right? Like everything's amazing. There's like perfect temperature, soft breeze. You look fab, like, you know, it's amazing. And you're sitting here on the beach looking together at the sunset. But instead of seeing the sunset, what you're seeing is a filter of orange and then gray and then green and then a filter that's a little bit warbly and then one that's like a little bit more distorted in terms of like, you know, opaqueness. And then what you see instead of this beautiful sunset is actually a stormy, cloudy day. But it's actually a beautiful sunset. And your best friend, even though you're totally tight with her, doesn't see the same thing you do. That's why you have different distortion, because her filter, different triggerings. So meaning what triggers you and what triggers her is totally different, right? So you're just like, you get totally triggered about this, and she's like, totally love you, and you're being a little psycho right now.
Sure.
Right? I think we've all our best friends say that. Just like, okay.
Yes. I've had my sister look at me and go, yeah, that just doesn't bother me the way it bothers you. And I'm like,
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Okay, exactly. Because again, that's your filter of distortion.
Right.
So to then come back to what we were talking about, just in terms of, okay, so you have all these filters, you have this resonance, and then you think to yourself, okay, well, I mean, I can't tell what's real. Do you know what I mean? And so you think, though, that it's all the stuff in your head. So your head is the thing that expresses your anxiety, your stress, your worry, the endless thoughts about like, I have all this crap to do and I don't have enough time. You know, like all the stuff we say to ourselves, especially as women, because now we have to take care of everybody, right? Got to take care of our team, got to take care of our husband, our parents, our children, our community, our whoever's, right? Our friends. We got to take care of all of them. That's our job. And so that's part of our distortion too. And it's beautiful, can be beautiful, and it can also like exhaust the crap out of us, right? It's just what happens. So anyway, so my point is that when you're in your head, you're always fighting these distortions, right? Which are very loud and are always telling you you're not enough and all that stuff. Once you actually clear enough of your distortion, it's kind of like a hot air balloon with sandbags, right? So if you toss out the sandbags out of a hot air balloon, the hot air balloon will just naturally rise. You don't have to do anything. The hot air balloon wants to rise. Like it's kind of, that's its essence, right? But the thing is, you've got sandbags. Well, it's the same, right? So as you toss your distortion, what happens is you start to get clearer and brighter and feel better. When you do that, what happens then is you actually have enough distance from, for example, your thoughts and your emotions. And you're like, oh, wait. That thought that just told me I sucked because of that, or I didn't do that perfect enough, or I should have said this, or I should have done that, or I should have, and I should have, and I should have. You realize, or I should have not eaten that, or I should have like had more willpower, or I should have whatever.
Yes.
Those you have more space from, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's not necessarily me, that's just my thoughts. And then you can start to have distance from them, and then they have less power over you. And then what happens as your resonance rises even more is you start to actually, I know it's shocking, you start to accept yourself more. You're like, oh, okay, well, sometimes I notice now that when I'm really tired, I have a need for something sweet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I have this need. Okay, so all right, well, what can I do instead? Instead of having like a sweet thing that doesn't make me feel good, is there something I can replace it with? Like something with stevia in it that makes me like, can I just drink my electrolytes? And is that enough for me? You know what I mean? Like you can make better choices because you're not being run as much by your thoughts. And at some point when your resonance rises enough, you actually can drop your consciousness, or the seat of your consciousness from your brain or your head and all this crap that we think, into your heart space. Now, you might think of your heart space as somewhat woo-woo. I get that it's like high woo. But the thing is, your heart space is actually not just about love. And I know we think of love in a very specific way as humans. But the thing is, your heart space is a very specific resonance. And actually, right at the very center of it, there's what I call the quantum zero. It's been called the tiny space of the heart. It's been called all kinds of different things. But it's like the field or the access point into which you connect into the quantum field or the oneness or source, okay, whatever you want to call it. It is that field that allows you to feel that infiniteness, and also you as higher self, okay, so you as individuated consciousness. And so the thing is, why does that matter? Well, it matters because when you're seated in the heart space and you're more aware of yourself as higher self, you start to, well, first of all, what you want changes. What you think is important shifts. What you can laugh at and kind of like, not in a way that's judgmental, but just kind of like laugh at yourself. You're like, okay, I'm just being totally ridiculous at this time. You know what I mean? My humanness, yes. And that's okay. Right? Yeah. That's happening. All right, great, wonderful, wonderful. But your ability to do that, to have more clarity, from that perspective, it's vast, right? So all the little dramas that we have and the things that we're concerned about and all that stuff, it becomes much more, it's not that it's unimportant. It's just less important, and we can get bound up in whatever it is that we think is so important in that moment. But we have more perspective and it's really lovely. It's like you get to start to appreciate life in a different way, and you get to start to experience challenge in a different way because you realize from that resonance, I realize it sounds weird to people who are in their heads, right? You're just like, I don't even know how the hell what she's talking about. It's really a shift in resonance, okay? And I recognize everyone talks about mindset and all that stuff, but your mindset is a reflection of your resonance. So if you change your resonance, what you think will shift. Yes. And so anyway, when you're in that perspective, not only is it more peaceful and more expansive, you are the emanation of love. And I don't mean love the way you love your parents or you love your partner or you love your children. I mean love, like without distortion, just love. That is the nature of you. You also are limitless in that love and also limitless in what you create. So if you really truly knew and understood and felt that you were a limitless creator being, do you think you would have fear in the same way? Do you think you would have anxiety? Do you think you would have scarcity? Do you think you'd freak out about half the crap that we freak out about if you realize that there's this aspect of you that is infinite and is constantly creating? If you understand that, and I don't mean that from a mind perspective, but like as a felt knowingness, then what happens is you trust a lot more because you're like, oh, I don't have to like be the one running at like 5 million miles an hour, totally exhausting myself to get this done. Like actually, all I have to do is slightly shift my resonance. And then all of a sudden ideas come in, people come in. Like literally we have so many stories from all these different people of like means dropping in to buy a house, houses selling that shouldn't have, that have been lingering on the market because all of a sudden their resonance rose, like partners who fall in out of nowhere. Like it's kind of crazy, or it doesn't even have to be that spectacular. It could be like, things like all of a sudden they get upgraded to business class and their hotel room gets upgraded and they're like, I didn't even ask for this. Like, how did this happen? Little things like this. And the thing is, not only that, but it's like fun. There's like this element of like play to it because it's not serious. You know what I mean? You're not like, oh my God, if I don't do the 10 things on this checklist and get it perfect, I'm never going to get that thing. It's just like, oh no, this is the resonance that I am. And as a result of my beingness, things shift around me. And that's really truly what it is. And you have countless stories of this yourself, Kristen, of things like being at the airport and like them randomly going to charge you, what is it, $350. You shift your resonance up and the guy comes back and says, I've talked to my manager and I don't know why, because we never do this, but we're waiving the fee, right? Or something like that. Like, isn't that the story? Yeah. You have like countless stories of these things. Anyway, that happens when your resonance goes up. So as you're in the heart space, which is hard for us as humans because we're so predominantly here. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you lose your mind. Okay. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't want to lose my mind. I don't know. Our minds don't tell us that much good stuff. I don't know if you've noticed, like, you really track your mind. It's not like it's telling you anything that glorious. But anyway, but what happens is that instead of it being dominant, your heart field becomes dominant in the sense of not again like this woo idea of heart, but really you informed by the infinite creator being source intelligence field that creates everything starts to like clearly express through the unique expression that's you.
Yes.
And so you start to have a certain kind of joyfulness and a lightness because it doesn't, I know it sounds terrible, it doesn't matter so much. You know what I mean? Like in the grand scheme of things, like whether you say yes or no or how you said whatever to who, it doesn't matter. And at the same time, of course, be conscious and be mindful and hold kindness because that's a higher resonance. It just feels better. You know what I mean? So do you see what I'm saying? Like it matters and it doesn't matter. But in that resonance of the heart, it's like you start to understand that you're not forced to do things out of scarcity, which is what so many of us do things as a result of. Like how many, like think about it for a second, right? I mean, how many things do you do because you're worried about it, right? Like if I don't do this, then this is going to happen and that's going to happen. If I don't do this strategy, if I don't learn this course, if I don't do this for my mother, if I don't whatever, there's some like horrifying outcome that will happen, right? I mean, like generally speaking, we do a lot of the stuff we do because we're afraid we won't have enough or be enough or something enough, right? Or something terrible is going to happen.
Humans act so much of the time out of fear. You're right. It's like the difference between, and I've heard people say there's really only two emotions, fear or love. Like those are, we're either operating on the space of love or we're operating on the space of fear, which I think is so fun. I have just two more quick things I want to, but I wanted to just, because you mentioned this heart space, for all the people who like their evidence. I mean, you've talked about the Stanford Heart Math Institute has measured this. Like they've literally measured the toroidal field of heart. It is measurable. Sure. This is a thing.
Yeah. And it's far faster than your brain. They've also tracked that as well. It radiates at 60 feet around you. And so the thing is, and it's interfacing with the field or the quantum field all the time. So if you go look at the Stanford Heart Math Institute, they're amazing. The rate at which you process through the heart field is so much faster than through your mind. You know, so, and what you're aware of and what you know and how you feel, like all that stuff is influenced by your heart field. Yeah.
Okay. So just two more quick things if I could, and I want to be respectful of your time. One is, and you can answer in as short of an answer as you want, Karen, or as long as you want, but I do think there may be people here, and I understand this, but I want you to speak to it, which is some people may be listening to saying, how does she even know all this? Like, how does she know? So from my perspective, and I want you to answer it, obviously, but from my perspective, I always think of, and I say this to clients all the time, here is the level of your awareness. Okay. Let's say you're here. As you raise your resonance, your field you're become aware of more. So you're speaking about things that for some people's awareness may be here, you're out here, and it's because your resonance has gotten so much higher. So you're aware of more things. And this kind of information is available to all of us if we increase our resonance, which is, I think, the answer, but I'd love to hear your answer. And then I want to ask you about timelines. Then I want to ask you about timelines. That's it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what you just said is accurate. And so the amazing thing is that, I mean, look, I was trained as an attorney. Okay.
Right. Yes.
I have 2 law degrees. All right. One in civil law and one in common law. Just saying. All right. So anyway, if you'd asked me that 20-something-year-old me, like if I would be doing this, I would have laughed my pants off. Okay. I would have been like, no, what are you talking about?
Chris as well. Chris as well is a trained lawyer as well.
Yeah, and exactly.
I love it.
So we couldn't be like more far removed from what we are now by training, you know? Anyway, and I was a very good, Chinese kid, and I studied hard, and I, did all the things. Anyway, so I came from that background. So So I was very head centric. And the thing is, it's not like I'm particularly special. I just happen to have remembered sooner. That's all, right? So it's not like it's not available. Like all of this is available. Like everything is available to you. All the levels of consciousness are available to you. Are there. I shouldn't say available. I should say exist, right? All the levels of consciousness already exist. All the different, levels of knowledge and wisdom and what we can do is all already there. But the thing is, what keeps you away from it or experiencing the timelines that you're talking about is your resonance. Your key, how high your resonance is, meaning how fast you're vibrating or not, is truly the key to what you can access in terms of information and knowing and wisdom and like what you can perceive in the non-seen. So the thing is, it's funny, and I'm just going to say another thing. I mean, a lot of us, for a lot of time, you could ask yourself, like, well, I mean, you keep talking about like, this kind of like weird stuff. I mean, like, as you said, how do you know all this?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, because we really believe that everything is particle, right? Like we look at the solidity like this and we're like, oh, well, it's solid. And we've been like focused like maniacs as a race on like the solid. We're like, I mean, that's why we even have science. I'm not discrediting science at all. I didn't say that. But I was saying we've been so focused on it. We're so focused on the physical. All right. But the thing is, the quantum field is wave, right? This is the double slit experiment that was done like a couple of decades ago now. So the thing is, in the double slit experiment, they found that the subatomic particle existed because the observer was observing it.
Yeah.
And it didn't exist when the observer was not there. That's the quantum field or the oneness or the field or whatever you want to call it, right? There is nothing solid. It's all wave potential. So then why the hell does a solid exist then? It's because, and why do you have so much pain and why do you get stuck and why do you have so much distortion that you can't like release and like you keep experiencing the crap over and over again, which can show up as like your relationship with your mother, your relationship with money, your relationship to your body, whatever, right? However it shows up for you and you're like, this sucks, I can't change it. The thing is like, because we keep focusing on it and expecting it to be a certain way and expecting it to behave a certain way, what happens is we make it more and more dense and more solid. And then we always, I don't know about you, but I was very conditioned to take very physical, very linear steps to try and address the problem. But the thing is that consciousness has risen enough that we can actually work at the quantum level, at the level of wave potential, which means that you can shift the things that we think are solid. Because really the way that the universes work is that the higher level order of vibration always dictates. So the lower vibrating thing will follow whatever's happening at the higher level of order. And you can ask yourself then, well, if that's true and like more people are awakening, then why'd the world look like this? Well, it looks like this because it's a great purge happening. You have to actually release the heavier, denser things in order to be at a higher level of resonance. And well, I mean, that's kind of happening right now. En masse.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I've heard you say before, using that example of just the particle versus the wave, even just thinking back to the Matrix movie from like 1990, whatever it was, that there are truly kids, like younger beings on this planet now, that the human is harder for them than the spirit. So they may be able to truly like bend spoons with their mind or put they see things as less solid. Could you just speak to that for a minute?
Absolutely.
That's real, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We have a friend who has a school called the Luminary School. I don't know what she calls it. But like you have all these kids who are wearing blindfolds, which by the way are a certain kind of blindfold. There is no light that comes in. And they can literally the kid will stand there and somebody will give them a patch, like they cannot see. And they'll put like a patch of green, red, yellow, purple, whatever. The kid cannot see. And they'll put the patch of color in their hand and the kid will be like purple, black, white, yellow, eyes closed. Like it can't see anything, right? Or they'll play a sport completely blindfolded. Or they'll be able to read and not see anything. They'll just read. Or they'll be able to bend spoons. Oh yeah, like this woman I know, her kid, when he was 4, he was bending spoons. Like literally, he was like he just could do it. So the thing is and it's not like he's that much different from anyone else. You can do it too. You've just been indoctrinated to a certain level of belief and a certain level of habituation in terms of what you think is real, that this is the way that the world should work. But the thing is, if a kid who's 4 can bend a spoon, what else do you think you can do? And what else can you do? You know?
Totally. Totally. Okay, so I want to sort of wrap up by having you tell us a little bit about your program. So I take all of your programs, as we know, because I love them and I adore you. So I'll just briefly describe it from my perspective. So I call Living Your Brilliance my spiritual Discover Strength. So I do Discover Strength twice a week for my physical body. I do Living Your Brilliance twice a week for my spirit body. And then Limitless Potential Mastermind is the higher level mastermind that you offer. And I love it so much. And then, of course, the retreats, and I do one-on-one sessions with you on occasion. So I don't know if you want to speak to those or talk about anything else or share offerings that you have right now as we close out.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people are like, okay, she doesn't seem totally psycho.
I agree. We're all thinking that. Yes. She seems like she actually is somewhat normal. Even if I don't understand everything she's saying. Yeah.
Exactly. But something about what she said sort of makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So I think, so all those programs exist, and that's awesome. And for some of you, you're just like, okay, I don't really know what any of those things are, and I don't know that I'm going to ready to throw down money for it. So first thing I would just want to say is that, we have a podcast series just like you do. It's called Mastering Your World Through Frequencies. And after each podcast, I give a specific group frequency calibration, which is frequency work after the episode. So I explain how things work really from a frequency perspective and why you're encountering things and why you're encountering obstacles. And then I give you the work to help to overcome them. And it's free. Okay. So you can find that on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts or YouTube. And it's called Mastering Your World Through Frequencies. And then, as I said, a podcast is a labor of love, and it's really amazing, Kristen, that you do this because you are so busy. Honestly, it's crazy how much you're doing. And the thing is, we have put out over 250 episodes ourselves. So believe me when I say that I understand, I know what that feels like and how much work that is. So first, before I even launch into what it is that I have as an offer, for those of you who are listening, if you could just take a moment and leave Kristen a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening or watching on, that would be amazing because it makes a difference. It actually helps her get her message to more people. And there's so much fear and anxiety right now and despair out there in the world. I really feel like for those of us who want to spread the good in the world, a little simple act like this can make a really big difference. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, I'm sure we would both appreciate it.
Thank you.
And and then the other thing is that I just wanted to say that, out of respect for what you're constantly giving, actually, it's kind of phenomenal, Kristen, what you do. But anyway, giving at all kinds of levels to your audience, etc. And really, because I respect that a lot, it's something that I care about as well. I'm inspired to give something special for your audience as well. So for everyone listening, I've put together what I call my Resonance Reboot Bundle. And it consists of 3 incredibly powerful goodies that I'm going to give for free to your listeners. So before I get into the specifics, let me explain who this is for. So if you're somebody who wants to remove the distortion or the static that we talked about today and learn very specific tools to raise your resonance, because this really isn't about me waving my magic wand over you and then poofing you into a better life. It actually is a collaboration, right, between you and I. I can't do it for you. You have to actually do something as well. So it's if you're the type of person like I was, who's like, just give me the freaking tools, let's go, then this would be for you. And you want to live a life you never thought possible, then totally great for you. Now, there are 3 awesome products in the Resonance Reboot Bundle. And the first one is the Frequency Accelerator Group Frequency Calibration to help you boost your resonance. Okay, because that's the key to everything. It's the key to releasing your distortions. It's the key to experiencing more abundance, to having more change, to how you feel, all that stuff. It's only 20 minutes long. You can pop it on when you're walking the dogs or making dinner. So that's there for you. And the second and third parts of the Resonance Reboot Bundle are things that I normally only give to paying clients. Okay, so these are 2 video workshops which amplify each other, which is kind of cool, actually. So number 2 is called Emptying Your Teacup, Making Way for the New, which is $99 on our website right now. And this will start to help you clear out some of those distortion patterns that we talked about, those limiting stories, the stuff that you get stuck on all the time. And the third thing is called Stability, Growth, and Opportunity in Chaos, which is $4.99 right now on our website, which I think we could all use right now, given the crazy stuff that's happening around the world and in our lives. So that's almost $600 in value.
It's amazing.
For free, just for your audience. And you can't find this bundle anywhere else. So ultimately, this will help you finally to create that momentum so you can really start to live a life you never thought possible. So if you want access to the Resonance Reboot Bundle, just go to my Instagram and DM me the words reboot111. And you can find me on Instagram at spherical_luminosity. And once again, if you want access to the Resonance Reboot Bundle, you just DM me reboot111 at spherical_luminosity, and I'll send that right over to you.
That's amazing, Karen. Thank you so much. That's such a generous offer. And I know my audience is really going to appreciate it. It's a way to take so much of what you've said today and ground it into an actionable step for them, which is amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I so appreciate having you on the show today. I loved our conversation. I could go down a million different rabbit holes with you, but I really appreciate your time and all the value that you've provided. And of course, that amazing bundle. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.